forgive me, I have some crumbs on my face, but I don't want to stop the whole live for that. Anyway, that annoys me. But anyway, thank you for joining me. Chimoge here once again. Welcome to the second ever Eagle segment. Eagle is where I just give you a big drop of information, and then rest and listen to my ancestors and also work. So that's what it is. Anyway, um, today the Eagle drop is about STEFON DIGGS, and since STEFON DIGGS appears to be involved in all sorts of trouble, let me share the live stream. Kabrinam Nalgoha. Just gonna call my ancestors, as well as my past lives. Ajundunis Jundu. Liha Mera Makaram Neba Boom Sanzo Neba Sanso Neba is Abu Mamadiyo Abu Mamadiyo Hamadiyo Hamadiyo Hanigwe Abum the Igwe Hane Megwe Hamadiyo Aguramin Kigwe Abu Mamadiyo Hanimeaka Kala Kanabu Hamadiyo Neze Abu Mamadiyo Hamadiyo Hamadiyo Baba Abu Mamadiyo one more share. I did a type of share that I won't do again because it makes things a little weird. All right. So anyway, done sharing. I see a like. Thank you very much to the person who liked. At least it's a registered like. Every like is a blessing. I currently have a viewer on screen. There were a bunch here earlier. And again, it's perfectly okay if people cycle in and out. I know people have things to do. I appreciate every view. Every view is a blessing. Thank you for that. And I see a comment. Hi back, Berlin Y35. 35 is the number of the spirit. Let's welcome the spirit in here. And that's something I should do every time I pray. Let me stand. Let me also take stuff out of my pocket. Yeah, so anyway, let's talk about STEFON DIGGS. It looks like he's been involved in situations where at least some people have been out of pocket. I just want to say this. Some stuff I'm going to say is going to be critical of STEFON DIGGS, and I've said stuff that's been critical of STEFON DIGGS before, but I'm not going to publicly give my full judgment on him and the situations involving him just because I don't know everything. My thing is just I want to highlight that he's been involved in some very serious situations. There's some indication that he's done at least some wrongdoing. It's just about the extent. and these things need to be investigated, because if someone is always involved in bad situations, they're either a victim, a victimizer, or both. That's three potential situations. None of them are good, okay? None of them are good, all right? You obviously don't want someone to be a victim. You obviously don't want someone to be a victimizer. And then here's a tough one. There is no reason to commit an act of evil against someone, even if they are doing bad things. So if you have a victimized victimizer, that's still not a good situation. So you still have to go save that person, and then at the same time, exact justice upon them. You see. So yeah. So anyway, let me turn off my screen for a second. All right, I'm back. Anyway, so first, thank you again to the returning people. For the new people, let me let me give you two pieces of information to help you understand me better. First, I was born in Southeast Washington D.C., and second, I am currently 28 years old. Yes. Okay. Anyway, um, anyway, so Stefon Diggs, he's just involved in a lot of stuff. And again, you heard what I said before, but let me just go into more detail about my full opinion right now, and just calling in my past lives once again. Um, I don't think he's innocent in these matters, but before rendering full judgment on that, I need to see full evidence, and the whole public needs to see full evidence. Okay, I'm not necessarily asking for special access to information. I'm just saying you can't just have a situation where a rich and famous person is involved in all sorts of crimes and or potential crimes, and the whole world doesn't know what's going on. You can't blast up my phone with messages. You can't fill up my feed with information about him and not give me full details. Let me take a second. Oh. Okay. Anyway, so there's four, because there's always four. I'm a leg person, a person of four in a way. There's four big situations I'm looking at that made me say this. First, his situation with his chef, and most people have been referring to her with a derogatory term related to some surgery. I don't know if she had a surgery or not, but I mean, again, for the record, I'll just say two things. One, I don't support cosmetic surgeries, and I'll leave it at that, okay? If you're gonna have a surgery, make it be for an actual um, urgent medical issue, and I'll leave it at that. Just don't do something like that for cosmetics. It's not good. But two, people who've gotten cosmetic surgery are not necessarily bad people, and I'll leave it at that. So you know, there doesn't need to be the discourse around that should be different. And then in regards to his chef, forgive me, I don't remember her name. Um, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Forgive me, I don't remember her name. That's no disrespect to her. I don't remember her name. But in regards to his chef, whether or not he had, or whether or not she had a surgery or whatever, is completely irrelevant to the case. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave that there, and I'm gonna say this: people are very unserious in the world today, and one of the worst ways that lack of seriousness manifests is they think they have to talk about every inch of a person when talking about a situation that involved them. Okay? You don't need to give someone's entire life story, line by line, play by play, to talk about something that happened to them. Okay? I'm just gonna leave it at that. But you should know what I mean. Anyway, so the situation involving Stefon Diggs and his chef, for those of you who don't know, his former chef who was in a romantic relationship with him. And again, a crucial part of this story is that apparently Stefon Diggs says that for anyone to work with him, they have to be in a romantic relationship with him, which is just not. I mean, that's just not a good overall situation. But I will add this: we need to really look at the concept of working for people, because I think it happens too much in this society at the very least. So, I just think that that model of work and model of relating to other people is just flawed. And I'm just going to leave that there. But then, you know, not leaving that, not going against that, but kind of dovetailing with that. If you want to, make that awkward situation worse, one of the most surefire ways to do that is to demand that your employees are in a relationship with you. That's just a ball of nonsense. Okay. I don't remember whether or not Stefon Diggs denied that, but you know, um, if true, that seems crazy, and I just remember from the evidence I saw, it seemed like that was the truth. Anyway, um, and I just have to add this. And again, I'm just going to go off. I'm an intellectual, and I'm also not a church boy. What do I mean by that? I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm unfamiliar with the action that gives people life. And I'm not a person who believes that the action that gives life is evil. So, because of that, it'll cross my mind, it'll cross my intellect. At the same time, I'm not the person to focus primarily on that in my discourse. And when I see nonsense in that space, I really would rather not talk about it. But at the same time, when things keep coming up, I have to talk about it. Okay, I'm the king. The king has to talk about what the people are talking about. So, and again, I'm talking about the Stefon Diggs chef situation here. So, the people are constantly talking about what I'll call transactional romantic relationships. They're different types because they're different types of transactions and different types of transactionality. But the biggest one is those that involve literal money and or cash, whatever you want to call it. So just because that's adjacent at least to this subject, I just have to speak on it. I'm not going to say everything, but I just have to speak on it. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't think that those interactions should categorically be illegal, and I'll leave it at that. Because if you break it down philosophically, that is not one thing. Saying that all transactional interactions that involve money are one thing is like saying all food that contains salt is one thing. Let me turn off my camera. So, that that's why I'm saying that like that. But it's just the way the laws in many places are, like in most of the US. Again, I'm in the US and this situation happened in the US. The way the law is in most of the US, if money was involved, it's illegal. That creates a lot of philosophical dilemmas because, um, that combination does not necessarily make an interaction immoral. And then it also makes a lot of immoral situations worse because people don't want to speak. So really, I just think that that aspect of the law should be done away with. Okay, I respect U.S. law, but at the same time, I maintain my right to advocate for it to change. How does that relate to this situation? Again, making it even more obvious. I think a lot is being left unsaid here because something like that might have happened or something. And I'm just going to leave it at that. What does that do? It allows for the flawed court system of this country to commit an act of what I'll call sheep nonsense. Okay, I'm just translating into English because they're turning a blind eye to a crazy situation, and they've kind of just left um, the alleged victim. And I'm just saying that just because I don't have full proof, but I don't really disbelieve her. I'll just say that, but reserve my right to withhold full judgment, but say that. It just left her out to dry. I've seen so many unflattering depictions of her, and then people are kind of ignoring that, justice was not done. I'm just going to end by saying this before I go on to the other three cases. If the accusations she made against him are false, accusations that, he assaulted her, and then also, had a weird employer relationship arrangement, if that's true, then the investigations should still be ongoing. You see, we have this culture of crying about false accusations. If you really cared about false accusations, you would not just go no proof, go away. That's nonsense. You have to actually investigate the whole situation. What would be causing someone to make a false accusation, especially when it's that detailed? And then why is the accused so quiet? I understand that, the legal realm is complicated, but at some point, as a person, you have to speak yourself. You can't just speak through your lawyers and your fingers. Let me move. Okay. Anyway, the point is, Stefan Diggs is involved in that situation. That's strike one. Strike two, he's been accused by a man of SA, and I looked it up, also just, I guess, general assault. It said he orchestrated an attack against him. And I just have to say, as the victim of an orchestrated attack. Shout out to Anthony. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic. For those of you who don't know, Anthony is my biological father, and I'm not going to go into for the millionth time why I'm just addressing him by his first name. Okay? Again, that's not inherently a sign of disrespect. Okay? People don't understand respect in the world today. But at the same time, it does as well signify he's not done enough to be a proper father. Anyway, so as the victim of an orchestrated attack, that kind of language, because the guy who's accusing Stefan Diggs said that he orchestrated an attack against him. That kind of language does make my ears go up. So that's something to look into. But that's ongoing. There's not a legal, or there's not a criminal case against Stefan Diggs for that one, but there is a civil case. So that's a very messy situation. All right. That's strike two. Strike three, Stefan Diggs has seemed to have a messy public relationship with Cardi B, one of the mothers of his children. Again, for those of you who don't know, Cardi B is a famous musician, commonly called a rapper. And that exploded recently in a public argument. Again, that's messy. I will say that in and of itself is the least bad of the four, but it does relate to the fourth one, which is very serious. Stefan Diggs and Cardi B's other baby father, I'll call him that, Offset, were involved allegedly. I don't remember if there's video or not, but allegedly they were involved in some sort of phone back and forth shouting match, something. They made threats against each other. And I think the threats rose to the level of threatening to delete life. Let me turn off my phone. Anyway, and I must say, even though that does relate to the Cardi B situation, that in and of itself is its own thing, okay? And I'll leave it at that. So those are four very big messy situations. What am I saying here? There just needs to be a complete investigation of Stefan Diggs, his character, and those around him. Because it looks like, based on the public evidence, he's someone who victimizes other people, and it's possible he himself suffers serious victimization, at the very least. So that's just not something you can leave out there. But anyway, that's the Eagle for today. Now let me ask for some intentions, because another point of Eagle is to ask for things for myself. First, prayer. I'll ask for prayer for four things. First, please pray that I get enough food to eat. It's still tight for me to get enough food. Second, please pray for the complete, I'll say, resurrection of my health. Again, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel for my health struggles, but it's not done yet. Third, and I'm tempted to ask for prayer that no one own dogs again, but these are supposed to be personal prayers. Anyway, third, I ask you all to pray for the resolution of what I'll call my ordeal outside of those issues. What does that mean? That those who victimized me are no longer in position to victimize me and other people, and that they fully repent. And side note, because you can't really force people to repent, at the very least, if they have not repented, that they're subjected to the full force of justice by the hand of God. Let me turn off my camera. Why do I need to do that anyway? Anyway, ancestral advice. Anyway, Kalmaz or Agu. And then um, fourth, 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 please pray that I obtain the highest possible level of connection with my ancestors. Thank you very much. So those are the prayers. Now, for tangible things you can do, please patronize my business. You can check the About section for that. You can buy my art. You can buy my merchandise in my Streamlabs shop. You can subscribe on Patreon, and if you subscribe on Patreon at the highest tiers, you can also get merchandise, and you can donate. You can donate on PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. Check those out. And I also have a GoFundMe you can donate to because it's not yet full. So that's all. Thank you very much. We'll see how long I'm here for. We'll see how long I'm here for, but for the rest of this time, um, just gonna chill, listen to my ancestors, and see what work I can do. I have some papers I kind of want to organize. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, thank you very much. Yeah, anyway. Ooh, looking down on it like an eagle. Let's see. Just want to come back. Obviously, this live stream's still on, but I'm in the thinking phase. I just want to come back to reiterate something. I'm not 100% sure um, that Stefon Diggs is guilty of everything that he's been accused of, and/or is the bad actor and at the very least worst actor in the situations I've mentioned. I'm just saying I have an inkling he is, but I could be wrong. And I want to emphasize I could be wrong. And regardless of whether or not I'm right or wrong, full judgment should not be passed upon him before there's a full investigation of these cases. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you. be a lot of shorts for me to put up. Here are the ways you can donate. I'm putting up a full, what I'm calling Eagle sheet of ways to patronize. Or, well, yeah, that's ways to help me. Yeah. There you got it there. PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App at OZBangWoku for the first two, $ OZBangWoku for the last one. Cash App, yeah. Ooh. Ba be. Abu mama dio her ba be. Abu mama dio her new go yeah. we're about to get out of here, but once again, let me give you 4 ways you can support me, because that's part of this segment. Before I again go back to the subject at hand. So here's the Eagle sheet. Okay, make it short. This is a little different than before, but it's basically the same thing. First, you can pray for me. And I just want to say this. I know a lot of people don't take prayer very seriously in 2 different ways. One, people don't believe praying works. So if they say pray for me, it's just a saying. That's not me. I genuinely think it works. So I appreciate people who genuinely pray for me. And then the other camp are people who want to just pray even though they can do more. I'm not looking to engage with that type of person, okay? Prayer should be accompanied by action. So I'll leave it at that. Anyway, the whole point is when I say pray for me, that's a serious thing. So it's a big option. Anyway, any prayer for my well-being is good. Any prayer with good intent is good. I outlined 4 things you could pray for before. I'll just rename one. Basically, pray for my safety, especially related to my ordeal. Okay, I've been the victim of attacks and lies and all sorts of other things for the past like 2.5 years. Really, it's approaching 3 years. So, it's been a lot. Anyway, my family, which was always bad, just got worse, attacked me, and some other people joined in. Anyway, please pray for my safety from all that nonsense. And then you can use other prayers. The second thing you can do is you can purchase things from me. So here are 3 things you can purchase. First, you can purchase art in my Patreon shop. Second, you can purchase merchandise from my Streamlabs shop. And third, you can purchase a subscription on my Patreon. I do have other subscriptions, but Patreon is the one I always highlight because it's the most comprehensive. And at the highest tiers of the Patreon subscription, you can get merchandise. So check that out. The links to all those are in my About section. Then third, and I'll show it again, I'll say it while it's on the screen, you can donate. And you see option 4, which I'll get to. You can donate to my media company, OZ Banguko, on PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. And you can see the handles there. And then fourth, you can share different things to help me. I'll highlight 4 things you can share. First, you can share the links to this channel with other people. Second, you can share the links to my Patreon shop. Third, you can share the links to my Patreon subscription. And fourth, you can share the link to all my donation app options, namely my PayPal, my Venmo, and my Cash App. And I do want to note once again that I have a GoFundMe that's not yet full. So you can also use that as a donation option. Anyway, thank you for that. Yes, calling my ancestors my past lives again. Ajundani Jundu. Yes. What am I saying? My life journey and my life bag. That's your full, destiny and existence. All your past selves and your current self together. Yes, calling them all in for support. We should all do that. Basically, everyone's descended from at least some of them, but not all of them. Anyway, I guess in theory you could be descended from all of them. That's probably unlikely though. Anyway, what am I saying here? The headline of this Eagle segment is that Stefon Diggs looks to be involved in all sorts of trouble. Stefon Diggs looks to be involved in all sorts of trouble. One, a situation where his former live-in chef, who he was in a romantic relationship with, accused him of attacking her, and then also as part of that accusation outlined a very weird work arrangement he had with her and other women, namely that these people had to be in a relationship with him to work for him. It's not normal. 2, A man accused him of SA and then also orchestrating an assault against him. There's still a civil case at large about that. And I want to note in the first case with his chef, it went to criminal trial and he was acquitted, but um, the courts are not perfect, so that doesn't convince me of his innocence. But anyway, we should investigate that more. Three, he's had a very publicly messy relationship with Cardi B, the famous musician. And I guess the most public flashpoint of that was an explosive public argument um, that they had yesterday in public in Maryland. It was said to be outside a coffee shop. So there's that. And then fourth, there's an incident where related to the Cardi B thing where he was allegedly on the phone, I guess, arguing with and yelling at or whatever Offset, who's Cardi B's other baby father. And apparently some sort of threats were made, and I think the most serious of which involved threats to delete life. So that's serious. So anyway, what does this mean? STEFON DIGGS is likely someone who victimizes others, and possibly is someone who himself is a victim. And I think if he's a victim, it's likely he's both a victimizer and a victim. But again, it's possible I'm wrong about him being a victimizer. That just has to be investigated, but that seems unlikely. Anyway, but I do want to note, even if he's done something wrong, there's not a person alive who cannot repent. It's just, you do have to acknowledge that after a certain point, um, repenting is unlikely. It's just difficult, but it is what it is. Anyway, I'm just trying to give a very comprehensive view of, potential and likely guilt there and its implications, especially because people don't really understand how to react to evil in the world today. Anyway, the point is, no matter what, there just needs to be a full investigation. As soon as someone has been accused of doing something wrong, something bad has happened. We need to look into it. Anyway, thank you very much. CHIMAOGE here. Once again, just to give you two other things to understand me. This is probably different than what I said before, but I'm just going to say it again. One, my government name is CHIMAOGE Chijioke eBay. Check me out under that name. You can look me up. That's my government name. And two, I'm currently 28 years old. Thank you very much. From Atlanta, Georgia. See you next time.